Smash Factor.
Ripping driver, going for it. Oh my goodness. How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. That is beyond long.
Look at this, he's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess hello world, huh?
Welcome everybody to week 16 on the PGA Tour 2021 season. We have the Farmers Insurance Open this week. A kind of probably first big field back, I guess people would say. We've had some good tournaments though. Last week was really great overall for us in general betting and all that kind of stuff, but some great playing, good Sunday action, especially kind of competing against the NFL. I had both on, and obviously had the Siwoo outright. So as that became more relevant at the time, kind of switched golf to the main TV, which something 5-8 years ago you never thought you'd do on a championship Sunday, but nothing like some PGA sweat and PGA DFS sweat on a Sunday afternoon. This week, no football. I think they're doing the Pro Bowl, like a virtual Pro Bowl or something. But so a lot more eyes, I think, come back. Typically, a spot where Tiger makes his return. He obviously had another minor procedure, it sounds like, and will be out for a little bit. I assume the timing of that would be to try to get back for the Masters, but hadn't no word on when his expected time back is. But I still think it's growing enough that when you get guys like Rory, Rahm, Brooks, Finau's even getting up there a little bit, Reed, those guys are all here. You're kind of missing JT, DJ, Morikawa's overseas, so guys like that to get a big full field. But next week get a little more eyes as the Super Bowl's here, plus the typically the Waste Management's kind of more just, I don't want to say public, but they know because of the big stadium, on the par 3. I was there last year with Tambo, had a great time. I don't imagine, I know there won't be that many fans allowed, if any. I'm not sure how many will be there, so it'll be interesting to see that. Last week for us, my main was so-so. It was kind of another frustrating, got so many good things right, but just couldn't get it all the way home. Faded Scheffler, faded M, which, he made a little run, but then faltered on the weekend. But I went, one of my last moves, which, basically bit me from any big money, on main slate, showdown I'll get to in a second, but was deciding, I decided to go basically Brooks, Reed, and a little Finau, and no Cantley. So maybe a little too aggressive there, fading Cantley in that spot. But hindsight, I'm not the ownership on Brooks. I didn't have to get a lot of Brooks, so it allowed me to get the other two I wanted, and just you got to make a cut eventually. And I knew I was fading Scheffler, so I could have went to Cantley, and obviously that would have been the right move. Finau was obviously good enough. My bullet was a 4 or 6, and scored well. Cashed in a lot of things, got a 12th, 17th, and 23rd in the Carbon Cup contest. So, because I had Cam Davis, Siwoo, and someone else. I think three of the 4 that made it through finished in the top 10 of the tournament. And then I had Doc, who didn't do anything on the weekend. So even with that just kind of shows you, and this is some of the stuff if everything goes right today, for the premium members, I'm going to release version 1 of kind of this just idea project I've been working on since basically we broke for Christmas. And it kind of comes down to just a macro, but then you can also micro view of combination of pricing, ownership, and the whole 5 to 6, 6 to 6 type deal, and how should we be adapting on how we're building stuff like that. Last week you get a 4 or 6, and one of my guys shoots over par on the weekend, and still finish in the top, of some bullet stuff, 3-max stuff, top, 20%, 10%, or more than that. I mean, 17th, 12th in the Carbon Cup, and what is there, 150 guys in there, 130 something guys in there. So there are strategies to be had, but predicting which tournaments are going to be tough, or 2 weeks ago we had 25% 6 of 6. So it's awfully hard, and my goal in this is not to try to dive too much into it, but more just give us a view of it and kind of understanding, and maybe get more comfortable with some different type of mentality of building and stuff. Because you're never going to want to go, okay, I'm going to build for a 5 of 6, but I think there may be some take more risk type deal when we see and review the data with the premium members. I had plenty of 5 of 6 that cashed. Hoffman really hurt me. He was in of all my 6 of 6s that got through, he was in 60% of them, and he withdraws two holes into Saturday, so that really kind of hurt my upside on the weekend on the 6 of 6 stuff. Showdown was great. Having the 2 course information definitely helped make a little money every single day. Friday was winning the 333 for quite a while, and I think it was Chris Kirk maybe that faltered down the stretch, and I think I top 10 there. And then Sunday came back and won it all, won the 10K with 2 lineups in there. Basically went Siwoo in both, and then I went Cantley in one and Finau in one, and kind of built down and was enough to get it done there at the end. Molinari was a big play for me pre-tournament and full tournament that really panned out. Ran him back in that lineup Sunday again because people still weren't really getting on him. Makes an absolutely huge putt on 18 to pretty much win it for me. So I was, that helped. That definitely helps the week. Huge week for me overall on DK. Hit the Siru first round leader and the outright, so 33-1 and 55-1. Definitely a great betting week. Matchups weren't great. I think they went 3 and 7 or something. Overall in the week, I think we're up to 15 units or so, something like that, with the outrights and stuff hitting. So take that at any time. Still working on the matchup type stuff. The monkey knife fight stuff was actually really good. Did really well on Sunday, football and golf. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that little write-up we're doing now. I'm doing, probably get some of that going with the other sports as well, as they're getting bigger and bigger. We saw the big buyout yesterday. So if we can get some action with NBA, UFC, NASCAR when it comes around, I think that's something we could take advantage of. And I enjoy it because it's us against the book, quote unquote, betting more like a bet than the DFS side. So we can all kind of work together on that, as opposed to DraftKings. There's always that fine line of us having to play each other at some one way or the other. 1-0 wasn't great. Went Reed, Wolf, and M. Wolf and M did okay, nothing spectacular. Reed obviously missed the cut, so 1 down for me on the eliminator deal. Sunday night I was like, man, how did I not get to see Woo? Because I had him a lot in DK. I bet him. I had him first round leader. I don't know. I don't know if that was something I got too cute and didn't want to take the risk there. Not sure, but it is what it is. Keep moving on. Plenty of people had him in the 1 and done, so congrats to those guys. As always, Smash 20 gets you 20% off. You are going to want to get in on these deals now. Really, really, really great progression last week on the new site and the integration. We are well ahead of schedule, what I thought we'd be right here on January 26th. Really excited for you guys to see. It not only, I mean, it is just a site, and it's going to be fairly familiar to what we had. Obviously, major upgrades and visual and the mobile stuff is really a big focus. But the atmosphere in which we're building it in, which we're hand building from, I say hand building, we're building in-house, from the ground up. It allows us to expand so much more, especially on our tools and our shareability of things with you guys, and the custom coding into it when we see stuff we like or we want to do. Whereas now when we're in the WordPress structure, like, it's kind of a open the box, and you get the product and you can kind of do some things, but you get limited. And it's way beyond my head, although I have some experience with it. Bobby's done a great job at building it, and I just kind of give him my vision and we work together on it. But the best thing about it may not even be when it first rolls out. It's going to be when you guys have ideas or come up with stuff and we go, yeah, let's just code that into the site. we have full reins of it. Like we will build it however we want to and make enhancements and stuff like that. That's really going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, 20% off, smash 20, get in now. We're lock and loaded for football. Golf right around the corner from NASCAR, baseball, UFC's going strong. NBA, all that stuff. So got one more football little showdown captain mode on the Super Bowl. Big pots out there. So I'm sure I'll write up. I'll do my showstopper article. It's I'm not sure how I'll attack it yet. It's very difficult to win one of those outright in general, but it's such large fields that I'll probably be trying to eye some of the smaller fields, even if I have to bump up my entry fee type of deal. With that, this week looks great for golf. The only thing I get mad about, I'll text my rep again, is I hate when they take away the 44. Like, that's one of my favorite contests to play, and I don't think you even have. I'm probably loyal to it because it was my first $100,000 hit, and I only had 6 lineups in it. But I think I think you can be viable in that contest in the structure they normally have it with a 10 to 12 would be great, but even if you have 5 to 10. I definitely I would take 5 lineups in the 44, which that's what, 220 or so, over let's say 10 in the $20, or 20 in the, when they normally have a $10, 22 in the $10 big prize, like I think last week was $10 or $12, or 5 in that 44. I take my chances on that 44, and I really like it. I think it's always been a pretty good structure. But when they bump it to a $20 like they did this week, they always eliminate the 44 because they want that 20 to fill up. But outside of that, a great contest this week. A lot to be had there. $250K to first and that $20. I'm sure I'll be MME that as we get closer to Wednesday, figure out what we want to do. Also, Smash 20 now gets you 20% off gear. We got the original black shirts, black hats. I got the new gray hats in there. Limited amount. We had some people buy after I said that, so they're in there. I think there's only 20 left. So if you want to go get a new gray hat, they're nice, very, very nice. JB did a great job getting those together. Go check those out. Listener League is up as well. Bumped it to 400 this week. Let's fill this thing fast. I want to get this thing. I'd love to get it to 1,000, but my goal is to maybe 750 by the Masters. So let's keep pumping that, fill it up. I'll put the link in the audio version. If you're listening to this now, go click it. 3 max, $7.50, $22.50 total. Just around 10% on the rake from them. Last week's winner, My Morning Undies, 651. Very solid lineup. Cantley, Finau, Clark, Davis, Benion, and Seifert. He made the finals in the football, I know for sure, because I thought he'd done it in golf, and I went to add him to the league this morning and realized that he wasn't in the golf one yet. So congrats to him. Solid. He went Cantley and Finau, which was an option I thought about doing, and he made it work. Seifert was a guy that I liked last week. I definitely played him in some showdown. He did well. He was in my Friday team, I believe, that was leading it for a while. Benion, probably underpriced. That's probably one that you stared at, but it just didn't pull the trigger. Hindsight, that was a good play. Had some Cam Davis, so pretty good, a really good lineup for him. Hopefully had in some other things. Congrats on that. This week for the tourney preview, as always, I'll refer you over to Fantasy DGM podcast with my boys, Kenny Kim, Tambo over there, do a great job. I saw their pod drop earlier, and I hadn't listened to it yet, but I saw the title and stuff, and Kenny doing something about the Ho train, and I thought, man, because I kind of noticed this last night when I was looking through guys, that there's a lot of guys that start with Ho, like Hovland, Hoffman, Hoagie, guys like that are all up kind of in the rankings. So I'm interested to see where they're going with that. I'm sure with Kenny, it'll be a good laugh. As usual, I saw the tweet on the Godfather from the WWE, so I can't wait to fire that up. Normally my first pod I listen to once I get my stuff wrapped up. We're at La Jolla, California, Torrey Pines, 2-course setup, 3 days on the south, 1 day on the north. Kakua overseed with rye into it. Greens are POA, traditional West Coast type POA. South green smaller than average. North green's about average. They were redone for, I think 2019 was the first year for them. So I think this will be 2 years. I don't expect them to be. It did seem like the North played a hair harder than it had prior to kind of that 2019, but not much. North is definitely easier. It's not even close. Par 72, 150 yards. Wider fairways in the South on the North. It was a 2016 remodel that reduced bunkers and made the greens larger. South is par 72, 7,700 yards, long and tough. We know that. Very iconic course. I went there 3 years ago. Had a great time. It was Jason Day won. I think it was over JB Holmes in a playoff, actually. In general, we'll focus on the South, but you got to do your scoring on the North in most cases. You kind of survive the South, maybe go a little low. North's going to score upwards of 4 strokes easier than the South when you look at the average scoring on both scores. So, definitely showdown wise, it looks like the books are starting to catch on to the first round leader stuff. I probably should have noted that because some people are like, Steve Wu wasn't first round leader last week. So most of the books that I looked at, they've now split it, which they didn't used to do this, and we used to be able to take a huge advantage of it. But they had a first round leader for the stadium course and first round leader for Jacks. Siwoo was 33-1 to be the first round leader on the stadium. So that is what I released and hit. I'll do the same thing this week. I'll have few first round leaders for the North, few for the South. Potentially. I mean, if I don't like anybody, I won't play, but that's how I'll split it up. But DK's not that I don't even know if they can how they would factor in the strength on the pricing. They have not done it yet. And last week, albeit some low scores were happening on the stadium, like I wrote up in my article Thursday night on Showstoppers, I think Thursday night, 12 out of the top 15 at that time were on the North. I mean, on the Jacks course. So just the mathematical odds of getting to give yourself the best chance, you needed to play Jacks course, all 6 guys, in my opinion. Yes, they're going to be a 1 or 2 guy go low. You just want to set yourself up. And it'll be this way this week. I'll play all North guys Thursday and all North guys Friday. Weather pending, I still think it'll just be all North guys. It'll have to be, because if the weather's there, it's going to affect both of them, and North's an easier course. So remember that. If you're not a premium member, that's one tip of the week. But I do go in depth in that on the Showstoppers each week when we have that. So tight landing zones off the tee, especially on the South, that's really going to be the focus for me as far as the overall rankings. Because again, to have someone compete and be in it, and I said this last week, they're going to have to do good on the South because they're going to play it 3 times. Mixed bag of winners and contenders here. Leishman last year, Rose in an anomaly year got to 21 under. Besides him, the last winners have been 13, 16, 16, 14, 9, 9, 6, 13, 10, and 15. So very low, low scoring, however you want to call it, I guess high scoring, other than the Justin Rose year. And I think this is going to play as tough or tougher. Weather's going to be huge. Right now, I am anticipating having to do the heat maps, which all you premium members know how beneficial those things are. And it gets a little more difficult when there's 2 courses, because not only do we have to do heat maps just for the general draw, we also got to anticipate where do we want each guy. Right now, as it says Tuesday morning, very early, it looks like I'd want majority of my pool to be morning guys on the South. I think that's going to be the best conditions of Thursday and Friday. So I want my guys, you can look at it 2 ways. I may flip by tomorrow. I kind of got to digest it. It's like, all right, do I want my guys playing the North course Thursday morning so they have the best scoring conditions and can kind of go low and then hold tight? Or do I want to give my guys, let them get the majority of their tough holes out of the way in the best conditions? That's where I lean, because if it gets real windy and rain, I mean, that South course could just eat some guys up. We saw it the year Snedeker won. So, this is very early, and I won't even. It'll be a late build for me. Luckily, it's West Coast, so we'll have even a little room Thursday morning. But right now, I'm leaning that I'd be South course guys Thursday. Now, all these rankings and stuff don't factor that in because we don't even have the tee times yet. But that's going to something to be cognizant of this week for sure, because there's definitely going to be weather and play. It's going to matter more tomorrow I'll probably have E9 out a little bit later, or even my final thoughts, because I want to get as much of that information in as possible. And generally, if I do the heat maps, I even release that after final thoughts to an extent, but really going to be pushing things back if we're uncertain about the weather. I'm hoping by 24 hours out, we have a little bit of a clearer picture. We can go ahead and make our moves. Cut for me, I think it's going to be even or +1. It's been as high as 2 at times. I really focus on the T65, so that's really just last year now. And I think it's going to play a little harder than last year, especially pre-cut. I think the better weather is Saturday and Sunday. So I really think you can see a +1 type cut. Winning score, I'm going to go in that -9 to -11 number. So much higher scoring than we're used to. In my research on the our PGA Tool Center, I excluded 2019. Played really easy. A lot of guys high scoring. As far as when I'm looking at the course history fit stuff, I didn't want that to alter any of my stuff. So I deselected that, which is very easy on our tools, and just looked at everything outside of 2019. So that's something you may want to do yourself. Key stats for the week for me. Real quick. So I'm looking at great drives, which kind of takes a blend of guys that can, hit it. The distance is there as a percentage to the field, but they're also an accurate drive that sets them up in a scoring position. Now, you don't have to be as accurate here. We've seen that, but it doesn't hurt. And I think in the total model, I just want a piece of that in there. Obviously, ball striking is going to be in there. Opportunities inside 12 feet. Small greens, we do want guys hitting greens and reg for sure. If not, you want to pull in a little bit of the around the green stuff because, it's imperative to get up and down. So the guys that I can get inside 12 feet more often are an advantage to me. So I pulled that in. Bogey avoidance, like I said, I think it's going to play tougher. Got to be able to get up and down around these greens. I think bogey avoidance is going to be a big deal this week. Stroke gain irons, which in our tool set brings in approach. It's a blend of approach and around the green. So I want to look at that, bring in a little bit of the around the green stuff. And that'll be a big one I look at in the deep dive, because I'll just be looking at how guys have played at Torrey around the green and stuff, because it's a different type of grass, and some of these guys struggle. And driving distance for me, just to bring it in, it's very low weighted in my model this week, but I wanted to kind of just as a more of an ire in my original model, see who leads the tour in driving distance. We kind of know that, but who's horrible, who's not. Mentioned Leishman's won here last year, Rose 2 years, Day 3 years ago. That's when I was here. Rahm, Snedeker. That was in the wind, crazy wind. He won at -6. I think the field shot like 5 over that day or something. Day won again in 15. Scott Stallings, Tiger, Snedeker again, Bubba, and Ben Crane are the winners. One thing that sticks out as I'm looking at the chart, just because my chart has a little flags, is Aussies do really well here, and that'll probably be a theme of the week. Last week, Koreans obviously did well. I see you got Leishman, Scott, Day, Leishman. So those guys have done well here, and maybe it's just those guys play this course well, those three, but they do seem to pop up here. So kind of a prototype per se. Only 4 guys in the field have not played this tournament since 2016. So very high. That's a lot of people that have some kind of course history. So maybe uptick a little bit to that, since we have so many guys that have played here, and kind of see how they have played or whatnot. Again, not going to go all in on course history or recent form. I kind of ride the fence there, I guess. I don't go hard on one or the other. Each tournament in itself is approached differently by me. Some may be stronger recent form, some stronger course history. The courses have been around forever. Definitely want to look at that more than not. Salary ranges this week. 10K, we got 5, 9K, 7, 8K, 11, 7K, 37, 6K, 89. There'll be probably 3 or so added from the Monday queue and DraftKings. You normally get the email Wednesday morning. I always add those to my final rank so people are just aware of them, because they're really going to get talked about. Ironically, I almost added Hoagie. He Monday queued last week. He was the one guy that I looked at. I thought, man, I may add him to kind of the pool conversation. Didn't do it. He obviously played pretty well. He is on my radar this week, though. Sweet 16, I have 4 tiers, three picks each, 9K and above, 8,000, 7,000, 6K and below. A fade of the week, a sleeper of the week, and then my gut feel plays is kind of how I do it. I do 3 picks in each salary range, and then I give a bubble boy to complete the 16. My first one is Brooks. Debated on this, again, similar to last week. I mean, he's -4, shoots even on day 1, -4, making the turn on day 2. Looks like he's going to make the cut, and goes in the water. I think he tripled it, maybe doubled it, and maybe another bogey coming in. But, he's a guy. Look at Cantley last week. Cantley makes the cut on the number and, goes 18 under. So would the perception of Brooks be different? Let's say he gets in at 3, he shoots -3 and makes the cut or whatever. I can't remember what the cut was exactly. But let's say he gets in through the cut, -4, and shoots, not even great, just like 8 under on the weekend. -11 would have been, is the perception a little bit different this week? Like, oh, he did well, he got his thing back, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to let that one instance stop me. He's still high in my ranks. I still don't think he's going to be talked about or much owned. He was extremely low owned last week. So I don't mind going back to him, saving a lot of money off of a Rahm or a Rory. He's $1,300 cheaper than even Finau. So, and I even like the 33, 35 to 1 number on him. I haven't added that yet, but he's definitely on my list. So, and he only played here once in 2017. He did miss the cut, but he hit the ball well. If you go back and look at his actual stroke gain metrics that week, played it okay. I mean, he obviously fits this kind of course for me. But he has even admitted himself he struggled on POA at times. So that was my one kind of concern. And he mentioned that last week when he talked about, playing Torrey, this week in preps for what's coming up down the road. So a little worry there on the POA, but I just like the ownership deal. I don't think I'm gonna have to get overweight on him that much. He's gonna be, right there on my list. And unless everybody starts talking him up this week, I don't anticipate that, but he's a guy I like. Next is Finau. I think this course probably suits him. I don't want to say better, but just as good as last week. I mean, obviously he played well last week, so I can't say that hurt him. He's top 20% in the field for me on POA. His last 5 runs here, 18th, 4th, 6th, 13th, 6th. Obviously good recent form coming in, hitting the ball well. He seemed more energetic than anything on the finish. Like he was just like, hey, I played well. Siwoo just played lights out. Cantley came out of nowhere, shooting, I don't say nowhere, but what, he shoot 10 under or something. So it's not like Finau's shooting 73 on Sunday and falling back. He still got 4th. He's right there. If there's going to be a narrative street of that, he can't close or, he's not going to do that back-to-back good, I don't mind having him. I mean, 10-7 seems high, so that's why I think people are going to be like, well, I'll just pay $300 more for Rory or drop down to Schauffele, who has horrendous course history here, just by cuts. Maybe go back to Reed or all the way up to Rahm. I mean, I can see Finau getting kind of missed, even though he's typically a higher-owned guy. The 10-7 may scare some people away. That's my anticipation. I don't necessarily wouldn't go to a chalky Finau, but I just don't see that happen this week because there's so many options up there in the 9 and 10K. I think it's going to be really spread out, just how to shoot, but we'll see. I think it really comes down to how people attack Rahm and Rory, and we'll get to that in a second. My third play is Wolf. Struggled out the gates, finished good, better than he started, played really well Sunday. It looked like he just got his game back together. So a guy that's 13th in my stat model, he finished 21st here last year. He's from the area. I'm going to assume he's played POA a decent amount. So he'll be familiar with that. The 9100 may get some people back on him. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I don't think he was super high last week. Or maybe he was. He was up there. I know he was up there with Scheffler, but a 40th finish could turn some people off. The guys he's around is going to make it tough as well in the pricing market. I think Bubba's going to be up there, which is a few $100 cheaper. Scheffler, I think guys could go back to him. He obviously was, the super chalk last week. Matsu at 9,200. So I don't think there'll be too much ownership go to him in general. So I really like Wolf this week. I won't call it a bounce back, but maybe under the radar or hair because he didn't do much last week. The bubble is kind of an interesting bubble for me this week. I went Rory / Rahm. I will probably most likely be playing one of these. I won't play both. I'll make a decision there because I just don't like the builds that are around that. And the decision may come against weather or draw or whatever. We got issues with Rahm getting hurt in the weight room. Probably just go to pressers on that and kind of see. I'm sure he's going to get interviewed. Former champion, got second here. I mean, his course history is, second to none here. A first, a 29th, a fifth, and a second. So he really likes the place. But Rory's no slouch. I mean, he's only played it twice. He's got a third and a fifth. I know he's coming off having to travel, but I don't put much into the travel these days. It's not what we're thinking it used to be. I don't think that'll be an issue for him. He faltered on Sunday a little bit as well over across the East. So I think they're both going to be talked about and potentially, highly owned. So it'll be a mix of weather, course draw, ownership. Where's that all going this week? Which is why I really kind of like below them, because if they're going to be 1 and 2 or both up there at 20% or more, I don't mind playing, Finau, Wolf, Brooks, Matsu, all those kind of guys, and just kind of fading both. It's risky because they've played here 6 times combined, and only once has either of them finished outside the top 5. So that's going to be on the minds when you're going through it. And I want a piece of one. I just don't know which one yet. So that's why I kind of moved them down to the bubble. 8K range, immediately go right back to Zalatoris. Number 1 in my model. Know he's got limited info. 8,100 is too cheap for him. I'll stand on. I was on him a lot last year. I think he'll be a top 20 player in the world when we're sitting here a year from now, if not better. Doesn't have much course history, obviously. He played here once in 18. I went back and looked. He actually didn't play that bad. I think he missed the cut on the number or by 1. And, he doesn't have all the history that everybody else has as far as stats. But what we do have, he's 8th in drive, 1st in ball striking, 1st in opportunities inside 12 feet, 1st in bogey avoidance, 2nd in distance, 11th in stroke gain irons for me. So I hope people just continue not to really talk about him yet, and they keep saying, let me see it before I believe it. Well, I think you're going to see it. I'm going to be on it early. We've had Rahm show up here, first kind of time and win it. This isn't his first time playing it, but, first time kind of in the spot he's at. And only thing I don't like is he hasn't played since Mayakoba. But I think the 8,100 allows me to get more comfortable with just playing him and being on him this week. Second for me is Bubba. He's actually second in my model. Really like this range this week in general. For this and betting, a lot of the guys in here I don't mind. I could see a lot of balance builds, especially if people get a little uncomfortable with Rory and Rahm. And there's not a ton of warm and fuzzies in the 6K this week. So I really think that ownership at top is going to be spread out because of that, and people will just kind of move more towards the balance or take one of Rory Rahm, and that's where I'm kind of pivoting up there to try to figure out how that goes by the time we get to Wednesday. And I think the weather could factor in that. We'll see. Bubba played here last year, first time, at least since 2016. He got a 6th. He hasn't played in a while, but last year he hadn't played in a while either, so I'm not necessarily worried at that. He's 7th in stats for me. When he was playing, remember, he finished the season really strong. So in general, this course should just fit Bubba. So is he going to be popular? That'll probably be the one thing. I don't know. Maybe enough people stay off of him because of the recent he hadn't played in forever. That would be the only reason I think people would kind of wait and see on him, but maybe they just load up. I don't think I would go to a chalky Bubba. I mean, if he really becomes one of the top 5 type owned or talked about, that I probably wouldn't want to be on. But outside of that, I like everything else about him. I think he's a good play this week. Adam Scott, 8,300. Seems like a really good price for him. Played here in 2019, got a second. Putting, ironically, on for him, he's got really good putting splits when you look at POA versus others. A 22nd of the TOC. Remember, there's only, I guess that's about mid-pack. There's 40-something this year. Made the cut at the Sony, got a 41st. Ball striking's there. He's going to be one of the top 10 off the tee. Driving distance-wise, he's ninth in the field in bogey avoidance, so I really like that. We know his history here. Not only his, but guys like Day and Leishman, the Aussie type narrative. He could be talked about quite a bit too, but I'm not really worried about him getting too overly owned. But I do like Adam Scott this week, 8,300. He'll be in the player pool. My bubble boy was Ryan Palmer. This is really close because I do like Palmer. 8,400. I'm not sure. I think he'll be less owned because I think a lot more people is going to pick an Adam Scott name before a Ryan Palmer name right there around the same price. But his last 3 years here, a second, a 13th, and a 21st, a fourth at the TOC, a 41st at Sony. So I don't want to say I'm going all in on guys that have already played one of these first three, but I do like guys that are playing their second or third tournament already. Not that it's an end-all be-all, but it is something I look at. Stat-wise, he's just okay, but he has played this course well. Biggest factor for me, and I was so close to putting him in the pool. He's going to be in the pool, but I got to stick with the format. But the reason why I really almost bumped him up was he's a great wind player. So if we do have some wind those first 2 days, he's a guy that can hold his own and not just get wiped out, and then be alive on the weekend and make a run. I think the year I was there, he shot like 8 under on the North or something. He shot something because I think he shot even and then 8 under or something like that because he went on to get second that year. So in 2018, so he's a guy I definitely like this week. 8,400. I think he'll be lower owned than definitely a Scott. So if Scott starts getting super chalky, I don't mind pivoting to Palmer off that right there. So he's the bubble boy there for that reason. 7K range. This guy I'm a little concerned about because had tons of them last week, was not talked about a whole lot. He was 13% ownership, but nothing crazy. But he stayed under the 8K mark, so $7,900. He's played here 3 years in a row, 58, 57, 36. So he's made the cut all 3 years. So for Cam Davis is who I'm talking about. A 31st at Sony, a third last week. We know his ball striking ability. He looked really good last week. He did, what was it? Saturday? Yeah, Saturday he had 2 eagles, and which was great. Eagle to par 5, and then he holed out from a bunker, and you kind of worried, all right, flashed and maybe not as good Sunday. I went back to him, and he still did good Sunday. Obviously, come back 3, made a run. Been on him for a while. We all know the stories there with him, and he can go roller coaster sometime. We've seen that, but he can get birdies in bunches with any of them. So not having to get all those birdies necessarily, and if he can just survive some of the holes, he does have a good bogey avoidance, 21st in the field. I just worry if he's going to be chalky because now when you finish third like that, you kind of can start getting a bump. You're still at 7,900. That's my only concern with him. Outside of that, I'm locking and loading Davis again. I'll probably still play him. He's just one of those guys I may have to go, all right, he's a guy I'm going to go overweight on and just move on from him. I'm not going to let ownership take me off all my plays, but there are some that I just go lock and load. Next is Corey Connors, 7,700, a 29th here in 2018, a 17th at the Mayakoba. Hasn't played since then. Not the end of the day, but, could have some rust factor there. Really finished the season strong last year. Has said to have been working on his putting game a lot. I think he switched putting coaches in the fall, if I remember right. 9th in irons for me, 5th in opportunities inside 12 feet, 6th in ball striking. He's not horrible in distance. He's not a bomber, but 54th in the field. That's not terrible. I mean, he can hold his own. Bogey avoidance is 40th, which isn't bad. Like a little bit better, but nothing to hate. I don't think he'll be real popular or talked about just because he's been off for a little while. and not like stellar course history, but he's played it once and got a 29th. I like that. And I think he's at his game's at the peak, not peak, but the best it's been. So if we're comfortable with him not having too much rust, if you get a tough conditions these first 2 days, I guess I get a little worried about a guy that hadn't been in a tournament in a month plus. But as of now, I'm just going to stick with the guys that I like for what it is. And as we get through tomorrow night, we'll adjust depending on how we think things are going to turn out, weather-wise potentially. But I like Connors. He's a grinder. Monday queued into the Valero the year he won it down there, which was my first year down in San Antonio. So I like him a lot. Cam Champ, I go right back to him. He's 7,900 also. So be interesting to see between Davis and Champ. I think Davis definitely gets more ownership. Champ burned a lot of people, me included. Horrible. Just started out horrible. It was +5, had basically no chance to come back on Friday. A 16th here last year. He's a Cali guy. Okay on POA. He had a miscut in 2019 here. 31st at the TOC. He's 10th in my stat model, 15th overall. Wedges and irons could be a little better. That's probably would be a nervous point for me. I'm just anticipating with him being a low own just because of what happened last week and people moving off of him. And so I want to get back on that guy, the bounce back week there, and I think he's a good contender for that this week. Bubble Boy, which is in the same boat as Champ, was really a flip between me. Which one I want to go back to more is Burns. Killed a lot of people. He was in my pool. So for all the good I had, I had guys like Burns. I had Kepka and Reed, which, all those guys missed a cut. Champ missed a cut, and really hurt. But he's got good putting splits. We obviously know he puts better on Bermuda, but he's not horrible here. So I do like that. A 49th, a 40th, and a miscut in his 3 years here. Miscut was his first year, and then now he's made the cut two years in a row. We know he missed the cut last week. Killed a lot of people again. Certainly going to be viable in my player pool. 3rd in stats, 6th in recent form. So he's another bounce back guy. So if people are going to be off him because of the miscut, I'll go right back to him and hope he just gets back to where he was prior to last week. 6K range. Wrap this part up. My first one, and it is bleak a little bit down here. Some weeks but there are the 4 or 5 that I do like. I do really like a good amount and don't mind going to them. They're just not. I don't know if there's 10 to 12 this week that I'm like, oh, I like him. I like him. I like him. There are some flyers that I could definitely like, especially as we get, if we have to start cutting the field in half or even in another half because of course draw, weather draw, and all that, you may be forced into taking some chances on these guys. So might as well get familiar with them now. The first one for me is Justin Suh, 6,600. Always seems to pop in the stat model. I know he has limited stats, but he's second for me overall. He played here last year, had a miscut. He's one I got marked to go see how that turned out for him. Was he on the number? Did he shoot really well in the north, not the south? How'd that work out? He is in the top probably 15% on my putting ranks on POA. So I like that as well, putting split ranks. At 6,600, you're just looking for guys that could be steady and give you a chance, down here this week. So I really like him. Harry Higgs, maybe one of my favorites down here this week. 6,900, a 9th here last year. Good on the putting splits, a 32nd at Sony. He did miss a cut at Mayakoba. 46th in stat model, which isn't horrible. I mean, when you're talking about guys in the 6K, you're not going to have too many that are top 10 type stuff, or they'd probably be higher up. Nothing just horrible. Pretty good average to a little above average in all the stats. So there's nothing like, sometimes with the guys like these, you'll have like, well, he's 120th in this, he's second in this, and then a bunch of okay. Like, he's pretty decent everywhere. And he's got a good driving, which I don't really picture him as a driver, but my great driver ranking, he's 35th. So for a 6K guy, I definitely like that, and I like him this week. Will Gordon, continue to go back there. I don't know why. He did make the cut last week, so that was good. But didn't do much on the weekend. I think he does have potential. He's 6,300. I mean, that's really one of the reasons why I keep his potential and his pedigree for me is enough to give him a try at $6,300. And the better part of him is he finished 21st here last year. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. Some positive there. He's third in great drives, for me this week. 46th in driver distance, 38th in ball striking. So enough positive there. He did make a cut, so I like a little momentum. And $6,300, that's a guy that I don't mind taking a chance on if I'm going low this week. My bubble boy was Ventura. Was in my pool last week. Made a run on Friday, I believe. He's the one, now that I think about it, I think he started like +3 or 4 on the tournament and got it all the way back to even. But I want to say he made another little run Friday, but then wound up missing the cut. But showed flashes, so that's something that I like. He did miss a cut here last year. He's top 10 in putting splits for me on POA, though. I like that. He's 12th in great drive, 57th in ball striking. A little worried on the opportunities inside 12 feet and irons, not too great there. So, but if you look at last year, he's one of the guys, he missed the cut, but it was all putting last year, which not all putting, but the splits between tee to green and putting weren't horrible. And so, again, if you're going to reach down here, there's some brightness there on him that he's worth a try for me. But a little concerned with those iron numbers is why I put him on the bubble boy for the 6K range this week. My fade of the week is Mark Leishman. I like him. We've kind of ridden the little uprise, and he's a guy that's never going to rank high in my stats right now, just because when you bring everything in, he had such a horrible run that when you're looking at that long, like a short-term deal, when I do deep dive and stuff like that, he tends to pop more because he's kind of turned it around. Obviously, defended champ out here last year, made everything putting last year. I don't think he hit a fairway last year on the fourth round. He's certainly a prototype here and can do well. I anticipate him being high owned. Which not high, but higher owned. I'd probably rather just go to day if I was going to do that. I think they're $100 difference. See if I can find. Yeah, Leishman's 8,700. Good course history, obviously. A 4th and a 24th coming in. His last 2 tournaments. So definitely a lot there. But like day for me, a 1st, a 5th, and a 16th his last 3 years out here. He's had a big break, so I don't know if that hurts him, helps him, whatever. He definitely likes the course, plays it well. I'd probably rather, I don't know who's going to be higher there. I think it's going to be Leishman, so I'd probably rather pivot to Day. People are nervous about Day, and a lot of it has to do with he's always withdrawal and stuff like that. But even if Day winds up being around the same ownership, my fade of the week is Leishman this week. Probably won't have any of them unless something just completely changes my mind by Wednesday. I have to find somewhere to get different, and so that's where I think I'm going to be this week. Sleeper of the week for me is Patrick Rogers. Not a guy. I have a couple buddies that always talk to me about him, and I played him at times. I definitely played him in Showdown sometimes. $6,800. He's got a roller coaster record here: a miscut, a 4th, a miscut, a miscut, a 9th. So 2 top 10s in the last 5 years and 3 miscuts. So hit or miss there. He is 6th in the field in POA split putting for me. So I like that. Any kind in the 6K range, when I got a guy that's got some things that are really high up like that and a good course history, I do like that more on these guys that are more volatile down low. 13th in driver distance, 20th in great drives, 37th in bogey avoidance, all those things great. It really kind of comes down to me is if he brings his iron game or has some kind of iron game. He did miss the cut last week, but he has 17th at Mycova. So he's a guy that I got him around 4% right now, 3.5 to 4.5% owned. So on the sleeper of the week, I don't care about price. I just try to find a guy that's going to be under 5% that really kind of speaks to me on this early start to the week. So Patrick Rogers, sleeper of the week. Gut feel plays, as usual. Just 4 guys that are 30th, 40th, or higher in my ranking. So not a top 25 type Monday, quote, Monday rank. But a guy that kind of sticks out to me for multiple reasons. So my 4 this week are Gooch, who good showing last week. I think he had a really good Saturday to kind of get up there. Didn't falter too much on Sunday either. 21st was his finish. Good record here, 36th, a third, and a 51st. Good record on POA. Top 20% in the field on putting splits. Did miss a cut at the Sony, but not too concerned about that with a good bounce back week. Not the longest off the tee by any means. That's probably the one worrisome there, and probably really why he's 95th in driving distance in the field, and it's probably why he's down in the rankings. But I do have a good gut feeling on him. Tom Hoagie, kind of like Rogers, he's got a miscut, a 12th, a miscut, and a 5th. So very hit or miss with him. Stat model, he's just not. I mean, he's 52nd overall for me. He's got back-to-back miscuts. He was somewhat popular last week, or at least talked about. So maybe he's kind of avoided. Again, he's 6,900, so don't just need a made cut out of him. Give us some upside. A third at Mayakoba as well, so I like that. You know, enough there to let him be on my radar as we head into Wednesday. Benny on 73rd. You know, the narrative could be, and not really narrative, there's been several people mention it in the industry, media especially, that the POA sometimes can help not so great putters. Matsu comes to mind. Benny on, obviously. Ball striking, we know Benny On's going to be there and playing well. An 8th last week, a roller coaster week for him. He was up there at first round leader, really close on Thursday. He may have been the first round leader on the North Course, I can't remember. But and then he kind of fell off a little bit, but then bounced back Saturday with a good round and closed it out good with an 8th. Played there twice, made the cut both times, a 68th in 2020 and a 49th in 2017. 7,500, a little bit higher than what I want for a guy with some question marks, but I don't mind him at all unless he's going to be talked up because of the finish last week. Then I probably wouldn't mess with it, but definitely a gut feel play for me. And then 75th in my model, Tom Lewis, my number one in putting splits this week. Hasn't played recently here in U.S. Hadn't played Tory, so definitely nothing that's just going to make you gun-ho about him. But, you know, pedigree, I like him. Stats, he's 42nd in the field, so decent. He just doesn't have much recent form or course history, so kind of drugged down. Could go on the radar, not really talked about much. So he's a guy I've kind of earmarked as a gut play at 75th in my rankings. Next, we will hit the betting and one-and-done strategy. Brought to you by Monkey Knife Fight, as I mentioned. Been putting out little write-ups of play of the tournament, play of the day for golf. Released, I think, 2 or 3 football, and I think I hit them all. Two of them were, or one of the golf was a 6X, and one of the football was a 6X. So good return there. Go to gupscorner.com/affiliates. Click the link and use the code GUPS, G-U-P-S, or use that code just when if you go to their website and you're signing up as a first-time depositor. You get 100% on your first deposit, up to $50. As we mentioned, you know, big sales yesterday for them, partnering up. Big things on the horizon with that company. I like their format, continuing to prove they listen to feedback and stuff like that, which is great. You know, and for us, it's good because it's just another avenue to be able to, you know, do betting per se, but also you can bring your fantasy analysis into it and make some good, you know, hedges there, or not hedges, but good leverage plays if there happen to, you know, say their algorithm, you know, this week. It could just be, I don't know what they'll go off of to set some of the fantasy numbers and all that, but for the full tournament, I may go look to go under on some of these guys because I think it's going to play hard. So under the fantasy points, under the scoring, under the birdies, stuff like that. I do release at least one full tournament play, and then I do one every night along with the showstopper. So you can use that as a guide. I'll have them for the Super Bowl as well. So for me, outrights, the 5 that pop, Zalatoris, all these guys are right around the same, you know, area on DraftKings and betting. 50-1, Bubba 40-1. Brooks, mentioned 33-1. Adam Scott, I think he's 45-1, 50-1. And then Cameron Champ, 66-1. I like those 5 right out the gate. I'll have my full card posted tomorrow night. Try to go back-to-back on winner. Already hit 2 first-round leaders this year and a winner. So doing good on that area. Top 10, top 20 type bets, my 2 long shots. Justin Suh, 150 to 1. And then Will Gordon, I really like 300 to 1. That should wind up being a pretty good top 20 number that I'll take a look at. So, and could I sprinkle on some of those guys for sure? But do I really see those guys winning? Not more times than not. So, a guy that's 100 to 150, I may roll in on him, but a 300 to 1 type guy, most of the time, if I can just get a solid top 20 out of him, I take that all day, and you get a great return on that. So, take a look at that, and I'll put out my final card tomorrow again. One and done. Started good with Neiman last week. Didn't really. My best finish though was M, and that was in my Neiman lineup. So an M finished 12th. So that one's not doing too bad. Plenty of studs here still. No one's dead after 2 weeks, so you shouldn't be trying to go way too off the board. Rom, Rory, those are guys that are going to be consideration for majors. So I would map out how you see the majors going. At least the majors. WGCs I'll take a look at as well. Brooks, potentially Finau, after he was kind of used quite a bit last week. Could go back to Reed. Matsu's a guy I don't mind. You may want to, if you're trying to forecast, I think Matsu could be extremely popular next week. So maybe a hedge to that is you take Matsu this week and then just hope he doesn't do well next week when he's uber popular. So, those guys up there is where I'm going to be living. I'm not going to get too crazy. And in that middle zone, I think all those guys I mentioned are live. The Watson, Scott, I don't think I'd go Champ, but Wolf's a good one. Palmer, that Cam Davis. Those are guys that are that 40 to 60-ish range. I don't think are dead this week. I think, could be a crazy week, weather and all that, and taking a risk on someone like that isn't horrible. I mean, you're not dropping too far down the board. But I wouldn't go any deeper than that. I mean, Day could be a pretty good one. Hovland, a guy I didn't even really get to this week so far. So any of those is where I'd be on the one and done this week. Like I mentioned on the final thoughts, probably I always aim for that 5 o'clock Eastern is my goal. Really is going to depend on where we're seeing the weather and all that, because I want to bring to that the most information I can. As I mentioned last week, be sure, even if you're not going to be in there, because there's more people that go back and watch it afterwards and watch it live. So even if you're not going to be in there, you can go in at any time. Right now, you can go into our Slack and fire the questions in the live chat questions, or as you think of them throughout the process week. That way, when I get in there, they're all loaded, and it helps chat go along. It was good last week, even without a ton of questions. The people that are in there were active, but it does help if you're not going to be live and you have questions you want. Go check it out. And I think this week's obviously going to be a lot about the weather, the draw, how it's going to impact it, what do we think, stuff like that. I'll cover all that. That's for sure. But specific questions like, how do you let the weather affect you if you're doing 50 lineups versus 3? I mean, that's a different scenario. So that's kind of stuff I'd love to get into on that. Hopefully, Kenny Kim's work schedule allows him to come. He's been kind of crazy these first few weeks. But plan on around 5 o'clock Eastern is our goal every week. If it changes drastically, I'll let you guys know. Other than that, you guys have a blessed day and a blessed rest of your week, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you.